With summer in full swing, I feel that familiar urge to refresh my closet, but I'm not trying to waste money on pieces that I'm going to wear once or for just one season. And that's where Quince comes in. Their clothes are timeless, feel luxurious, look elevated, and the quality is way beyond what you'd expect for the price. I just got a white linen maxi dress. Now, if I had paid for that dress in a department store, I would have paid $170. Well, guess what? I got it for $69. And by the way, that same dress comes in blue pinstripe. Think 100% European linen top starting at $30. Washable silk dresses and skirts and soft cotton sweaters. Versatile warm weather pieces that you're going to reach for again and again. And the best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. So you've got to give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince. Go to quince.com/Kate Casey for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Kate Casey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Kate Casey.
When it comes to hiring great talent, Indeed is all business needs. Their sponsored job feature puts postings at the top of search results, helping employers reach ideal candidates faster. With 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs, according to Indeed data, businesses can build their dream team without delay. No monthly subscriptions or long-term contracts. Employers only pay for results. Every minute, 23 people are hired through Indeed worldwide. Speed up hiring today with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/WonderyUS. Just mention hearing about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. And I've got a great episode for you today. And I was thinking this week, some of you are in the market for a great reality show this week. And here's some good news. There are a couple of them that you need to put in the queue. So you've got Project Runway, which returns on Freeform. Challenge Vets and New Threats on MTV. And then The Valley begins their disastrous reunion. Disastrous because everyone hates each other. So that is going to be on Bravo. But the one I really want you to look out for is Perfect Match Season 3. It arrives on Netflix August 1st with 6 episodes, and then episodes 7 through 9 on August 8th, and then the finale on August 15th. Now remember, my friend Tony directs this binge-worthy series, and last time we spoke off the record, he said, I think everyone's going to go crazy when they see this season. So I am very happy to tell you the cast, which I have had to keep under wraps. So first, you should know that AD from Love is Blind, Season 6 in the US, she meets Ollie Sutherland on this season of Perfect Match. He's from Love is Blind UK Season 1. Well, guess what? They're engaged now and they're going to have a baby. So love can exist on a show like this. Also this season, Clayton from The Bachelor. Remember he was The Bachelor? But also Rachel, who was The Bachelorette. Madison from Love is Blind Season 8 in Minneapolis. Remember we thought she was playing a couple guys at one time? She's a real mystery. Freddie Powell from Love is Blind UK Season 1. Perhaps one of the most attractive reality stars that have ever appeared on Netflix. But then you also have QT Bullock from The Circle, J.R. Warren from The Ultimatum, Marry or Move On, Sandy Gallagher from the same show, Daniel from Dated and Related, Alex, Cody, and Olivia from Temptation Island Season 9, Hannah Burns from The Mole Season 7, and Juliet Porter on Siesta Key. So make sure you go check that out. Again, that's a great binge-worthy show for you to check out this week. I hope that you listened to my interview last week with Gertie from Real Housewives of Miami. And I hope you also listened to my interview about 2 weeks ago with Matt Anderson, the executive producer of Real Housewives of Miami. Now, if you are loving all of the seasons of Real Housewives, you're going to like this episode. Today, my guest is Gretchen Rossi, who made her debut on The Real Housewives of Orange County in Season 5, which premiered in November of 2009. I know it sounds so long ago. At that time, she was introduced to the cast as the fiancé of Jeff, who is in treatment for leukemia. Their age difference, his battle with cancer, and their relationship became a central storyline in those first years that she was on the show. Well, she found a surprising new love interest, Slade Smiley, who appeared in the first season of Real Housewives of Orange County. So, though their engagement aired on the show, they are happily unmarried and the parents of a 5-year-old daughter. After some time, Gretchen rejoined Real Housewives of Orange County this season, and in this episode, we discuss those early years of her time on the show and the decision for her to return. So, if you're someone who has watched that show for a long time, you're going to like the reference to some of the earlier seasons and the scenes that have popped up over the years. So again, lots of reality shows for you to watch this week. Now, tomorrow's episode, check out if you love all things true crime. And this week, I also have an interview with the author of the new Gwyneth Paltrow book, which I devoured this weekend. So an absolute must listen. So here's my interview with Gretchen Rossi. Well, this is hilarious. We probably live a mile and a half away from each other, but here we are today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on the show.
So I have to ask you first about when you joined the show, because so much time has gone by and I completely get it why the producers chose you.
Oh,
because
did?
Living here is such a specific group of people. And if I were casting the show, I'd say, yeah, I want to get the woman who is in a relationship with where there's a big age gap, because that actually happens so much around here.
Right.
And I think for other people outside of Orange County, they kind of are like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I completely get it. So tell me how you were cast.
So how I was cast was, it was actually Slade that recommended me for the show. Him and Joe were no longer doing the show. They were doing the spinoff, Date My Ex. And he recommended Jeff and I to kind of be almost like the replacement of him and Joe, because they asked him, do you have anybody that you could recommend? Well, when he had asked me if I wanted to do the show, I was like, absolutely not. Like, I have no interest. I don't want to do anything like that. And the producer started calling and I just kind of ignored, and they wouldn't stop calling. So he's like, just talk to him. So I was like, okay, fine. So I talked to him and we have a couple interactions, whatever. And then, and I swear I say this, I feel like the more you say no, the more they want you, right?
Yeah.
And so the more I would just be like, nah, I'm not sure, And then next thing I know, they're calling me and they're like, you got the gig. And I was like, what? What do you mean I got the gig? Like, I didn't want the gig. And I remember going to Jeff, and Jeff was the one that actually convinced me to do the show. He was like, look, every day for us has been about the hospital and about the cancer and about just all of this, like, bad stuff. And he's like, this could be so much fun. And he's like, selfishly, I don't want to have to because his doctor would always say, you shouldn't travel, you shouldn't this. And he's like, now I have an excuse to be like, I have to travel because it's for her job, And so he kind of was, being silly and campy and like, no, you should do it because of that. And then he always had said to me, I know you've always loved fashion and beauty and you always wanted to do something in that space. And this could be a great platform for it. So ultimately, I saw it as a business opportunity to use that platform to help build, something within the fashion and beauty space, which is what I did. Jeff, he was such an amazing businessman. He was such an entrepreneur. I mean, he is the designer behind the Hummers and the Chevrolet. What are those called? Why can't I think of it right now? The Corvettes, like when the new Corvette would come out, like he was the designer of a lot of those cars. So he was always ahead of his time on a lot of things.
So how did that relationship ultimately shift your life? Because I'm putting myself in that position. So you're how old when you meet him?
Oh my gosh, this is a long time ago now. So I'd have to remember exactly my age.
But like what, roughly like early 20s?
No, not early 20s, like later 20s, like 27, 28 maybe. But I can't really remember because this is a while ago now. I'd have to like look back and see exactly. But I think it was around 28, 29, somewhere around there.
So how did that kind of shift your life? Not just the way that you felt about relationships, but 27, 28 years old and you're marrying someone and all of a sudden you're going to doctor's appointments and with the realization that this may not be a long-term relationship because we're on borrowed time.
Yes. When Jeff and I first met, I was a very successful real estate agent here in Orange County, and I had sold him a home. And in that process, he had asked me to actually design the home for him and, go out and do the furniture and all of that. And I love doing stuff like that. I did that for a lot of clients. And so as I started doing that, we started to build this friendship over time. And then I remember one day where we went to lunch afterwards or something, and he was like smitten with me. And I was like, that was weird, like, I was like, what's that about? And so then, a few other times that we were together, whatever, he's like, can you not tell that like I'm taking a liking to you or whatnot? And he was just a very charming man. And so it was a slow roll into, building this friendship and then a relationship. And yeah, I mean, I guess what's weird is I don't think I realized that it was like such a thing or strange to other people or whatever until it was on an international platform where everyone had something to say about it, because everybody within my circle of friends knew the orientation of our relationship and how it came about. And everyone knew that Jeff and I were in love. And so it was never a question. My parents loved him. We went on trips together. It was easy. And so when it was so questioned when I got on the show, that was hard. And then, yes, for sure. Like, we had, this great time and a beautiful life that we were building together. And for him to get diagnosed, I remember the day exactly. It was December 18th when we walked into that doctor's office. And I remember receiving just that horrible news that he had acute leukemia. And then it wasn't until, it was like a few days before Christmas when they were just like, you got to start looking at plans because not a lot of people survive this. It was like a 15% survival rate or something. So it was just a really horrible time in our lives. But I believed, and so did Jeff, that if there was anybody that was going to beat it, it was going to be Jeff. Mm-hmm. And so we just went into it like, let's go to battle. Let's do this, But I don't think I realized how much it would change the trajectory of my life and in the sense of what that undertaking looked like, because becoming someone's full-time caretaker at such a young age, it definitely takes a toll on your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. I mean, it wasn't an easy time at all.
So in some ways, now that you say it like that, did it surprise you that there was sort of this gap in between you and some of the cast members? Because what you were doing in the caretaking was something that really is what you experience when you're a little bit older. So in the way that you explain it now, I would have thought maybe there would have been more commonality.
That's a really good question. That question would probably be more for them than even for me. You would think that maybe they could be a little bit kinder or relate to that better. But I think that they just immediately wanted to have judgment and wanted to assume that I was this gold digger or this person. Mm-hmm. They didn't get to know me. I mean, if they had gotten to know me, they would know that I was in the top 7% internationally for Coldwell Banker. I bought my own home. I bought my own cars. I took care of myself. And half the reason that Jeff fell in love with me is because I wasn't I wasn't like, oohed and awed by his money or what he had. I was like, I can take care of myself. I don't need you for that. And so I think that I was the first woman in his life that was just like, whatever, like, I don't need that. And I think he was really attracted to that because he was used to women just being like googly goggly over him because he could like do things for them.
Is it painful then when you see clips where he's with you? And I think you were in like Indiana or something. Maybe you had gone back to visit. But all these years later, does it still feel sad when you see those clips?
I don't know if it's sad because actually Indiana in particular was a really special moment because he was sick and he got so much energy and so much light from being at that racetrack. We went back there for the Indy 500 and because he did a lot of the pace cars for the Indy 500. And so when he was there on that track, you could feel his spirit come alive. And so that for me actually was a very special moment to be there with him, knowing that he was sick and knowing that he still got to enjoy these things that made him so happy.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. I'm soaking up the last bits of summer while feeling the pull back to routine. I've been enjoying going on a ton of hikes. And it's really important to stay hydrated. Liquid IV is easy and it's convenient. You just tear, pour, and enjoy. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Staying hydrated is so important, especially in the heat, fueling up for sports, feeling yourself after a long trip, or even a night out. Now, remember that delicious popsicle that you would get at a summer birthday party? Well, Liquid IV has captured that taste with the Orange Vanilla Dream Hydration Multiplier. It's going to remind you of that popsicle. That nostalgic vanilla flavor with notes of candied orange can help you feel hydrated better than water alone. Again, grab your water, tear, pour, and enjoy, and stay hydrated this summer. Visit liquidiv.com, and I want you to use the code Kate Casey at checkout for 20% off your first order. Again, visit liquidiv.com and use code Kate Casey at checkout for 20% off your first order.
Movie night, date night, or solo marathon, IMDb is your ultimate entertainment companion. Discover new favorites, rate what you've watched, and never miss an episode with the free IMDb app. Curate your watch list with a tap. Get personalized notifications for your favorite shows. And find your next must-watch movie or series. From blockbusters to hidden gems, we've got you covered. Download the app now, register for free, and find your next favorite.
How much did that show at that point of your life kind of shift your life? Because, I mean, I don't think people really understand the magnitude of a show like that. There's so many reality shows now, and you guys certainly get a lot of attention, but I remember you being on Oprah Winfrey, and it was like she gave you like makeovers. I didn't feel like you were. I did not feel like you were happy with your makeover.
Oh no, that's like a whole funny story. That was so funny. No, it was called Make Under. So
Make Under. That's right.
Yeah. So they were trying to take us from these, glam, housewives and make us under. And I just remember
it was kind of insulting.
Well, yes. And the thing is because I was the new girl, I got the worst outfit, the worst look, because everyone's like, I want that one, give it to the new girl. And so I definitely was not loving my look. But here's the thing. The fact that we got to go be on Oprah Winfrey
Big deal.
Those opportunities, I mean, it was incredible. And that's what's so great about the show is it brings so many incredible opportunities. But there's also a lot of, heartache that comes with, opening your lives to the scrutiny and the hardships of putting your life out in the public eye for everybody to judge.
I almost felt like it was a little bit more vicious in some ways back then too. I mean, there would be people that would, I remember, post photos, like old photos of not just you, but all the cast members.
Here's the thing. I feel like when I came on the scene, I felt like it started to get very vicious. And I feel like new things started to happen. And I feel like, there was some iconic scenes between Tamara and I that I think changed the trajectory of Housewives as a whole. Because before it was really just about the families and about, what you had going on. And then when Tamara got so opinionated about my life, it started to become this very, huge feud between two women. And it started to become kind of ugly and toxic and negative and all of those things. And so I think that really is what kind of changed that trajectory of Housewives. And I think I feel like it's kind of just progressively gotten more and more and more. And I think the season, the way that it ends, you'll see that again. It just seems like it gets more and more and more.
A couple of years ago, I'm at Casey's house and I was talking to her about you being on the show and wondered if you'd ever go back. And I remember Casey said, I've never forgotten this. And I've said it to several people. She said, Gretchen is someone who likes to be positive. She loves to be around girlfriends who are positive. And I don't know if she would want to be back in that situation because it doesn't represent your personality.
Yes, yes.
So how were you able to reconcile that? Because, I mean, certainly somebody who kind of watches you from afar on social media, like you seem to be somebody who really tends to be happy and positive and look at the brighter side of things. So if you're going back into a culture like that and you have to have quips, you've got to, be bold. I mean, that's the blessing of the show is that I think you guys all get to say and do things that maybe we don't do in our personal lives because we think, it's not worth it. I don't want to be impolite, but the structure of the show kind of requires you to do that. How did you kind of work through that?
Well, first of all, I love Casey. She's one of my dearest friends, and I appreciate her, shedding light on who I am. That was a huge conflict for me with the show is part of the reason I left the show. I think I remember a 7-year-old girl coming up to me and being like, "Oh my gosh, I love you on the show." And I was like, that's not how women should treat each other. That's not how they should talk to each other. Da, da, da. And, as I mentioned, I was so naive coming into the show. I was like, I get to go shopping with my girlfriends. We get to drink champagne. We get to be about woman empowerment and all this stuff. And it was so opposite of anything that I thought it was going to be. And that was very difficult for me. And I was very sad about that back in the day. I was really, really, that was heavy on my heart. And, there was rumblings for several years of, would you come back? Are you interested? Little bits here and there. And for a long time, it was like an absolute no. And then this last year, I have a lot of, longstanding relationships with some of the girls on the show. I've developed new friendships with some of the girls on the show. And when they called and asked about this season, it was the first time, I said no immediately. But it was the first time that as the conversation continued and they said, okay, well, don't just shut it down completely. Let's talk through this. Let's talk about your reservations. It was the first time that I was like, if there ever was a time to come back to the show, now would probably be the right time because I do have so many friendships within the cast. And I feel like I'm just a different person. I've grown. I've been able to sit back and kind of see the show from a different lens and not take it so seriously or so personally. And so after 3 times of saying no, we finally, came to an agreement that we all felt comfortable with. And I was very torn on the decision. I went back and forth a lot. And I didn't know if it was the right decision, but I felt like if the decision was going to ever happen, that now was the time to do it. So I just decided to say, let's go with it. Let's have fun with it. And I kind of had to compartmentalize that, like, these women are the show. That part of what makes the show is that there's going to be very combative, situations that you're in. They're going to be very confrontational. People are going to have lots of judgments about you and your life. And even though I choose to not surround myself with those type of women in my everyday life, I know going into this show that was going to be part of the deal. And I knew that I had girlfriends on the show that are like the friends that I have in my life. So I felt a little bit safer going in this round, if that makes sense.
Do you think you're a better housewife now that you're a mom?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't think it's necessarily better housewife. I think it's just you have a different perspective. You know what I mean? I think that you can understand things a little bit better. You have probably a little bit more empathy for people, when it comes to situations with their children or what they're going through or whatnot. I think you see it just from a different lens.
So when we watch the show, it feels sometimes like we're stuck back in, 19 blah, blah, blah. How hard has that been to let go of things that you have lived rent-free in your head for quite some time and go back into the cauldron?
Well, so what's interesting is it hasn't lived rent-free in my head for a long time. When I left the show, I left the show. I went on with my life. I don't know, if you notice with my social media, it's like I see housewives that were on for one season, they're still tagging like Pound Rock. And it's like, okay, you literally were on for one season, 20 years ago. But for me, my life moved on after the show. I still was very successful in what I was doing. I, built a life with Slade. We had a daughter. I didn't have to get press or be in the press because of the show. I was doing things because of just who I was in my life. So my life was never defined by the show. And, but what happens organically when you come back into a position like I am, where you're back on the show, obviously a lot of the past is re-triggered. A lot of the past is brought up. when someone's behavior, when they're saying something or doing something, you're like, yeah, not really, because this is who you've always been. This is who you've shown to be. And here's all the 900 examples of that. And look, I know that there's been some, narrative or rumblings of, oh, she's stuck in the past and all of that. And yes, there's no way to come back into a group where there's so much rich history with them for there not to be some discussion of the past. But what frustrates me the most is the person that's talking the most about don't go in the past is actually going to therapy to discuss her past and the trauma that she has from her past. So to me, it's like, why am I not allowed to discuss the past or bring anything up about that? But you are. That feels weird to me. It feels a little hypocritical.
Fill in the blank. People would be surprised to know this about being a Real Housewife.
Oh gosh. That it really bleeds into your real life and it's, I don't know, that's a really bad answer.
But does it? Does it bleed into your life? Do you feel, is it hard to turn the volume down?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, at least for me, there might be some women on these shows that, they can go in and they're like, this is a job. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to keep my paycheck and I'm done and I'm out. That's not how I do life. I'm a very, straightforward, authentic person that like wears my heart on my sleeve. And, when I go in, I'm really experiencing these feelings. I'm really going through this. And when somebody is saying something or doing something and then it bleeds out into the press, like it definitely affects me. And I try to not let it. I think I'm much better than I was back in the day.
Okay.
But it's hard for it not to. I mean, people believe what is being shown about you to be everything that you are, and whether it's somebody's making up a lie about you or not. So that's difficult.
So do you feel like oftentimes you're running interference?
Yes, I feel like a lot. I'm having to defend something that's been said about me or, claimed about me, or I'm never really, like, if you really go back and watch all of the seasons, I'm never the one going, you did this and you did that and you're this. It's like, I'm always just like, always having to defend myself or sticking up for myself,
Mm-hmm. Well, here's a speed round of questions. Go back in time, the engagement, anything you would have changed about it?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no. It was one of the best days of my life.
Is there a scene that you regret?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure. Probably a million. I don't know if anything like comes to mind right off the bat, but yes, I'm sure there's plenty.
Tipping culture is out of control. Yesterday, I tipped someone just for handing me a napkin. So when Hotels.com gives me up to 20% off for being a member, I finally get tipped. And you know what? It feels good. Hotels.com. Members save up to 20% off at hundreds of thousands of hotels.
Hey grown-ups, I'm Mindy Thomas.
And I'm Guy Raz.
And we're the host of the #1 podcast for curious kids, Wow in the World.
Mindy, can you believe we have our very own Wow in the World STEM toys?
I totally can't believe it, Guy Raz. 8 years ago, when we started making Wow in the World, we were on a mission to spread the latest wow discoveries in science and technology and innovation. And now we get to help kids discover these wows right at home?
That's right. From the ultimate high-flying air rocket to the light-up terrarium, there's something for every wowzer in your world to play and tinker with.
Grown-ups, you can find Wow in the World STEM toys available now at select Walmart locations or online at walmart.com. Shop the wow now.
What's it like to look back at old outfits from years ago, play back on TV?
Oh, I mean, it's funny for me because I'm just like, I'm a very animated, person in my fashion. And I do things that people, are like, what the heck? But I think it's funny. Like I look back and I see some things and I'm like, okay, what was I thinking? But also I love that. I love that about myself because I think that I don't, being being boring, being basic is boring to me. Like I enjoy, I'm very flamboyant with my fashion because I feel like it's a way of, just showcasing your personality and your creativity. And, it's sometimes not somebody's cup of tea, and that's okay.
I do feel like the great thing about female friendship is when you have someone in your life who's so different than you and how the way you can tease each other. Like when I see like you do a lot of pictures with your daughter where I can just imagine myself standing there with you going, okay, you're wearing that and look what I'm wearing,
Yes, I actually have a lot of friends that I joke with. Even Jen on the show. Like we were even just filming something the other day that we were laughing because she was like, "You're always just like head to toe glam, always put together, always fabulous." And I'm like, "And you are so good at like just the chic, casual look." And like, I literally called her several times during filming. And I'm like, I don't know how to wear jeans. Like, make it make sense for me. Like,
that is hilarious.
What top do I put with these jeans? And then she would call me and be like, I don't know how to like be glam and be dressed up. And like, how do I do this? And I have so many people tell me they see these pictures of all my friends, like Casey and Layla and all those girls in these pictures. And everyone's like, I could not hang out with you guys. It would be so much stress. But for all of us, it's like so easy,
Well, I do think people are like, wait, did they get a text? Like, this is the theme color.
Yes.
And then I think people think like I would maybe like, if I show up to Casey's house for a birthday party and I'm in running shorts, am I allowed to be in the photograph?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Of course you're allowed to be in the photograph. I just think that because whenever we do our parties, we create a theme. So like if we're like, okay, it's, all pastels, or it's, shades of yellow, or everybody wears white and the birthday girl wears pink or whatever. Like there's always a theme. And it's fun for us. Like we love to make the birthday girl feel really special and stand out. And we love it to be whatever the birthday girl wants, like whatever theme she wants. So typically we ask the birthday girl and she's like, I'm really into like, butterflies right now. And so if she's into butterflies, then we'll do like a butterfly theme or, whatever. So, and what's fun about the group is that we all get into it and we all, really think out, plan out our looks and we make it fun. So when we're all together, it's like a theme.
I always think it's like a 3-tier birthday cake for like 6 people. Like there must be lots of people who get to enjoy the cake after.
Okay, so you want to know the tea about the cake?
Yeah.
Okay, so typically the cake, a couple of the layers are faux. And then
got it. Okay.
It's actually the cake because we don't need 3 tiers.
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, good Lord, who's going to eat all that cake? I have a bone to pick with Slade. The scene years ago with the car. He like leased a car for you and gave it to you as your birthday gift.
Right. Yes. I still have a bone to pick with him about that one too.
Okay, good.
Listen, he had such good intent with it because he knew that like, that Rolls-Royce was so fabulous and it was such a beautiful car. And they were having this like special lease option that was the price point was so incredible. And he was like, if you want it, it's yours. They said, they could, whatever, that they would make that happen for you or whatever. So it was a very sweet sentiment, but no, I ended up saying, no, I'm not going to spend that money on the lease. Even though it was actually a very reasonable price for that car, I was like, no.
Do you ever have to say to him, you can't be on camera? Like,
oh yeah. All the time.
But does he like being on camera?
No. Actually, that's what's funny. No, I shouldn't say I tell him not to be on camera. That's not really the right sentiment. I always tell him, don't say some of the stuff that you say on camera because there's times that the show requires our significant other to be there or asks for the significant other to be there. Or when we come home and we're doing a download from the party we were at, they request that the partner is there to do the download with. And that's kind of just part of our job. It's part of the relationship that you sign up for when you do the show. There's events or parties where the husbands are invited. So the husbands are there. And then, a lot of the narrative from the women are, Slade's involved or Ryan's involved or whatever. And the thing that frustrates me about that narrative is Slade's not just randomly, it's not like us girls are lunching and he just busts open the door and he's like, now listen up here, ladies, I have an opinion about something. The reason that Slade ever gets involved is because the women involve him. They talk about him. They bring his name up. They're saying something about him. And, you know, it even happens this season where there's a conversation happening about Slade at a party. And this person's running around and telling everybody about this thing about Slade that he supposedly, you know, had some conversation with another guy. And I wasn't there for it. And so they're running around talking about this conversation. But then we come to address this person about it. And then they're like pissed that Slade's involved. And I'm like, make it make sense, you know?
Yeah.
The person's right here for you to address and ask what actually happened. And then when it's time to address them, you're pissed that he's involved. Like it's stuff like that frustrates me.
Yeah. Well, I think also I think that the truth is it's a show about women. And if it's too much men, I think women get annoyed. They're like, no, because we want our stories to be told so much because they really don't exist in so many other areas of media that we're so excited when we get to see our stories play out.
Yeah, but see, that is not the right narrative because meaning I get what you're saying. I agree 100%. But again, he's not trying to take away from any of the girls' stories. If he was doing that, I totally get it. But you cannot bring up a guy and bring him into a situation, or you cannot say, oh, Ryan got raided by the FBI and not expect that person to stand up for himself and say, that's not true. You can't make up a lie about me like that. That's not cool. So if you don't want the men involved, then don't bring up their name. It's like really easy.
Okay, so the last question is, I'm going to ask you about certain like friendships that you've made within the Housewives space. Who is the person you were most surprised to get so close to?
I think I was surprised when I did Ultimate Girls Trip and I became close with Brandy Glanville and actually Caroline Manzo. I felt like I had a great rapport with both of them. And it's kind of the irony of that is that whole show got blown up because of the two of them and the situation that happened. So I was definitely surprised about those friendships that I built with those two girls. And I think, you know, it's interesting because I have so many friendships across all of the franchises. Like I'm friends with Phaedra and Nene and Kim from Atlanta. And I just had lunch yesterday with Jacqueline Larita from New Jersey. And, you know, I've had so many interesting friendships across all the different franchises. I know a lot of the women from Beverly Hills and it's fun because it's definitely like a sisterhood, but I think there's sometimes that you see somebody on screen and you're like, whatever. Them. And then when you meet them in person, you're like, oh, I love them. They're great. You know,
who do you find to have the most compelling story in the Real Housewives umbrella right now?
Oh, problem is I don't watch the shows.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, I would probably say I've always been interested in Kyle Richards' story and her life. I've known her for so many years. We've been friends for so many years. And I just loved her and Maurizio together. And I feel like, as everybody probably in the world felt, you know, I was so sad when that marriage of, you know, whatever it was, 26, 27 years, you know, came to an end. It was heartbreaking. I was really sad about it. And I was definitely invested in them and their family and all that. So I think it's been such a interesting evolution of her story and her growth and, you know, all of the chatter that's happened around her and Morgan and all the stuff. So I find that interesting.
What's the one thing you want everyone to look forward to this season?
You know, I think this season it was really, there was moments of just pure fun. Like there's times where I feel like, you know, you walk into a room and it's like, oh, what drama is going to happen tonight? But I feel like there was a couple moments where, and I really give this to the producers, where they just allowed us to have some unsolicited, fun, silly girl time. And I really, really appreciated that because I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think all of us as a whole really, you know, are well, I can't say as a whole. There's one person I wouldn't say that about, but most of us are good human beings and most of us are, you know, just being moms and trying to live the best life we can and trying to get by and, just do life. And so when you allow that camaraderie to be shown and that connectivity between the cast to happen, I love those moments. It's really special.
Well, tell everybody where they can find you.
So all on my social media platforms, I'm just at Gretchen Rossi. I think the only one that I'm not is, what is it? TikTok. I think it's at the real Gretchen Rossi, because I think somebody tried to have my name Gretchen Rossi, but everything Gretchen Rossi. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to talk with you today.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my guest, Gretchen Rossi, and remind you to click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Join the Facebook group Reality Life with KKC. You can get bonus podcast episodes this week by going to Apple Podcasts and also on Patreon at patreon.com/Kate Casey. And also make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KKCCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter Threads and Blue Sky at KKC. Hoping that you have a fantastic week, and make sure, again, you check all new episodes this week.
Today is the worst day of Abby's life. The 17-year-old cradles her newborn son in her arms.
They all saw how much I loved him. They didn't have to take him from me.
Between 1945 and the early 1970s, families shipped their pregnant teenage daughters to maternity homes and forced them to secretly place their babies for adoption. In hidden corners across America, it's still happening.
My parents had me locked up in the godparent home against my will. They worked with them to manipulate me and to steal my son away from me.
The godparent home is the brainchild of controversial preacher Jerry Falwell, the father of the modern evangelical right and the founder of Liberty University, where powerful men, emboldened by their faith, determine who gets to be a parent and who must give their child away. Follow Liberty Lost on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.